Persona 5. Released back in 2016 with millions of copies sold, and releasing many spin-offs, collabs, garbage anime, hell, even stage plays. But my intention today is not to tell you how great and successful Persona 5 is. No, we're not doing that today. Maybe for a future video, maybe. But today we're looking at the unused content of the Persona 5 2015 beta. Now for those who don't know at this point, around late January of 2024, 5 prototypes of Persona 5 were found at an anonymous auction. And these prototypes were later dumped by this guy named Frostwolf, with help from a few others. Unfortunately, we don't have the 2014 beta shown in early trailers. And unfortunately, some of these prototypes are basically final with some debug functions, like the March, May, and June builds. However, the December and February builds have a lot of differences. However, today we're not really going to discuss the February build at this point in time. And most of the interesting stuff is in the December build anyways. So, let's go! Now to be clear, I will not cover every little thing I find, because some of these are more interesting than others. But, to start, let's go over some models that are not very interesting to very interesting. First off, we got some planes. I have no idea what these could have been used for. Maybe for the Hawaii trip? Who knows? Next, we got this duck boat and this spaceship models. They're only just a 2D texture on a 3D plane, and they just have one animation of them just spinning. I have no idea what these could have been used for, but I guess you can just guess what they could have been used for. Next, we have this basic door in this wall, and this painting. I have no idea what it could have been used for, but probably for like Monorami's palace or something. Now for the interesting models. First off, we got this Kamoshida door with early design for the wall, which looks very similar to this model that is unused in the final and in this prototype. Next, we have this model and these images of real-life Tokyo as models. Now, as many of you know, there was this early Joker model in the game's files, unused of course, in the final and this beta. Unlike the final, as far as I know, there is animations for this early Joker model and an unused texture for emotion, which most of those I've shown in the previous video. But there is something I left out of that video, and for a very good reason. For some reason in the item model folder, there's another early Joker model, which is very close to the final game's model, but it is kind of like a mix of the early Joker model and the final games, like his messy hair for example, and weird looking face. He also has the early name of the school. But that's not all. The other Phantom Thieves, well besides Morgana, also have early models. Most of these models are mostly similar to the final game, or they're just unused in the final game, like Anna Ryuji. These models also have animations, but they're just static poses. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about Futaba's early model here. It's not really that different from the final games, but the kanji on her shirt, which just translates to summer uniform. And the early Joker on Ryuji models are also used in this test video. In Kamoshida's palace model folder is 2 earlier Kamoshida models. In the item folder, there's concept art of what presumably is the protagonist's house. Now to look at some palace models that I found interesting. First off, there's this early model of Futaba's door for her palace, whatever the hell this was used for. a model of the Phantom Aficionado website, question and answer thing, and this Madarame Shadow model. No idea what this could have been used for, although maybe it has to do with the limousine that he's in when meeting Yusuke. Now this is interesting. It's the early protagonist concept art design, but on a mirror. There's also this room texture for the mirror, and this random dude. Some magazine called Tokyo Runner, and the final models I'll show off today are these two bags. Now we're done with the models I found interesting. That doesn't mean we're done, oh quite the contrary. We have to look at unused graphics now, so let's get to it. First off, let's look at some leftovers from Persona 4 Golden. It was not really that uncommon for developers getting leftovers from a previous game. Now, for example, Persona 4 was built off Persona 3, and because of that, there's a lot of Persona 3 leftovers in Persona 4, like graphics, the opening movie, and music. But anyways, back to Persona 5. First in its own folder called SPR is the checked prompt used in Persona 4 Golden and later used in test footage for Persona 5. Now for other P4G leftovers, they're left over in a file called, well, P4G. And surprisingly, there is a lot of P4G leftovers in there. Like, we got like UI elements for the entire Persona compendium from Persona 4. There's also quite a few bust-up leftovers from Persona 4. There's also some UI leftovers from that game as well, like the status screen portraits. The most interesting of all of these by far is this Joker concept art. It just replaces used graphic from the status screen UI. There's also some portraits from that message thing in Persona 4 Golden. There's also another folder here called Facility, and it just has some messages from, well, the facilities, or the places where you can shop. Anyways, let's move on to some more unused graphics. First, we have this image of the controls, and there's a few differences to note here, like how the baton touch became the baton pass, and I'm pretty sure guard here and attack got swapped. And I guess you could swap your sword and gun originally. Next is just the PS3 controller. Here are some early loading icons, a temporary name entry graphic, some sort of warning icon, whatever the hell this is, a very early result graphic. Here's some early prompt graphics, whatever the hell this is used for, but it's a temporary graphic and it's called good_test. Here is what supposedly is concept art of Shibuya, what appears to be Tokyo or some sort of other big city like New York, I guess. Now it's time for some placeholders. I mean, everyone loves placeholders, right? Right? Now first off, we got this mock-up of what appears to be a max rank. Just ignore that it just says 4th rank. Anyways, it shows the Fool Arcana, with the Arcana name being Main Teacher. I guess they like Kawakami that much. Anyway, some other things to note about this placeholder graphic and others like this is that it shows a debug date of April 1st. Next, we have what appears to be, well, mock-ups. Other placeholders here are not really that much, well, interesting. Most of these are in the final game for the most part, but either have some differences like them being grayed out in the final game. There's also this boot up temporary graphic from Catherine. There also is some Catherine leftovers, like some UI elements, but besides that, not really that interesting. And that's basically it for this beta that's undiscovered. Well, technically so. Some of these are discovered on the cutting room floor, but that page is very, very limited. So I'm glad that I actually discovered all of this and was able to share this all to you, the viewers. But I'll be honest, I don't think I discovered everything in this beta. Like, there is so much in here I have yet to discover. Besides the unused stuff, which I'm not totally sure if I found everything, there is a lot of differences in this beta alone that I have simply no time today to actually discuss. Who knows, maybe I'll make a part 2 to this video showing some differences in that beta, cause trust me, there's way much that isn't documented yet. You have no idea. And if you would like to look inside the files yourself, well, it's a bit complicated. Well, I'll just leave it at that, but the only thing I'll say is that you would need the beta yourself, which isn't really that hard to find online, so get to it. You would also need to unpack the files, which I'll leave in the description where you can find, well, how to download and get some things that are essential to opening this beta. Anyways, that'll be it for today, so have a good day, or pleasant day, or night, whatever it may be where you're at, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.